Police say South Asian individuals or businesses, they're typically contacted via letter, phone call, or social media. And they are told to hand over large amounts of money, and they're threatened with violence. And we'll get more into that as we await on this presser. But as CBC News has reported in the past, that violence has included gunshots and even attempted arson. And business owners say that they are constantly living in fear for themselves, for their staff, but also their families. Now, police in Ontario, Alberta, and BC have said that this violence is linked to organized crime in Punjab. So these roots go, beyond Canada itself. And investigators say that one of those gangs linked to extortion threats is the Lawrence Bishnoi gang. So in 2024, the RCMP claimed that the Bishnoi gang is targeting members of the pro-Khalistan movement on Canadian soil, allegedly at the behest of the Indian government, and accusations the Indian government has rejected. Now, Bishnoi is believed to be in prison, but is generally assumed to be overseeing the gang's major operations from behind bars. And recently, BC's Premier David Eby has called on the Prime Minister to even label the gang a terrorist organization. So what would that essentially allow? Well, he says it would allow police to have better tools to investigate those extortion threats. And if we go back into the city of Surrey, how this is affecting the city, the mayor, Brenda Locke, has said the city has been facing an alarming rise in incidents and that her office is receiving calls daily from residents and business owners who are affected by these recent threats as well. And Locke was on BC Today, and you can just take a quick listen to her.
It's not just Lawrence Bishnoi. It's Lawrence Bishnoi. It's Jeevan Fauji. There are a number of groups that are predators that are going after innocent Canadian people, and we need to make sure that we try everything we can and give the police every tool that we can to designate these people as criminals.
British Columbia. Thank you all for taking the time to be here for today's announcement of a new initiative in partnership with Crime Stoppers to address the recent rise in extortions against some members of the South Asian community across British Columbia. As the host for today's event, and on behalf of those guests in attendance, the Surrey Police Service would like to thank the Kwantlen, Musqueam, Katsi, Semiahmoo, Tsawwassen, Kikite, and Coquitlam peoples for allowing us to live, work, and play on their beautiful territory. Before we get started, I want to introduce today's speakers in the order that they will be speaking. The Honourable Gary Begg, Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General. Ms. Gillian Millam, Executive Director of BC Crime Stoppers, who will be joining us virtually from Newfoundland, where she's attending a National Crime Stoppers conference. And Norm Lipinski, Chief Constable of the Surrey Police Service. I would now like to invite Minister Begg to the podium. Minister.
Thank you, Lindsay. Good afternoon, everyone. I, too, would like to give a special thanks to Gillian Millam, BC Crime Stoppers, for joining us remotely today from Newfoundland, and to Chief Lipinski and the Surrey Police Service for hosting us. I want to also thank the Coast Salish people, including the Semiahmoo, Coquitlam, Kwantlen, and Tsawwassen First Nations, on whose land we are today. I want to acknowledge we have Superintendent Darren Schneider with BC RCMP Provincial Operations Support Unit, and my friend Chief Harj Sidhu with the Delta Police Department, who is also in attendance. South Asians throughout our province have been the subject of extortion threats. These threats have increased recently and in recent years, including violence and intimidation. Understandably, this causes great concern amongst residents. Law enforcement agencies at every level, local, provincial, and federal, are working together in a coordinated fashion to target the people who are issuing the threats. The BC government stands with you and are doing everything we can to support the police efforts to bring these extortion threats to an end. Crime Stoppers is a critical partner in keeping our communities safe by empowering people to take an active role in helping to prevent and solve crime. Whether it be through anonymous tips or contacting your local police department directly, reporting is the most important step in stopping extortion and keeping people safe. That's why today we're partnering with BC Crime Stoppers to encourage those experience extortion threats to report it to the local police. With support from the federal government's Guns and Gang Violence Action Fund, our government has provided $100,000 to help BC Crime Stoppers run a 60-day extortion awareness campaign. This campaign will be available in both English and Punjabi and will include advertisements on radio, podcasts, Spotify, social media, and television. It was developed in consultation with individuals with deep knowledge of these issues, including those with experience in policing and lived experience within the South Asian community. The goal is encouraging reporting to help police find and stop those responsible for these actions. We know more needs to be done, and to end this violence, and the work doesn't stop there. Premier Eby has written to the Prime Minister requesting that the Lawrence Bishnoi gang be labelled a terrorist organization in Canada. South Asian extortion is a national issue, and we want to see a national response. The federal designation would unlock the additional tools and resources for police, not just in British Columbia, but across the country. For our part, the province will continue to invest more than $100 million to support specialized enforcement and intelligence programs targeting guns, gangs, and illicit drug activity. To anyone who has been a victim of extortion, know that supports are available. Reach out to your local police or someone you know is or has been extorted. I want to thank BC Crime Stoppers for all the work they do in our collective efforts to disrupt and dismantle organized crime groups in British Columbia. And I also want to thank all of our law enforcement partners who are working tirelessly to advance these investigations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Begg. I'd now like to invite Gillian Millam remotely to say a few words on behalf of BC Crime Stoppers.
Good afternoon. BC Crime Stoppers are honoured to partner with the provincial government to address the serious crime targeting our South Asian community. Crime Stoppers have been an integral part of British Columbia's communities for over 40 years. Currently, there are 13 independent programmes throughout the province. We offer an anonymous tip line that empowers the public to speak up. Often, individuals hesitate to report crimes or share information due to fear of retaliation, reluctance to be identified as an informant, or unwillingness to attend court proceedings. Our tip line helps mitigate these concerns. When you contact our National Anonymous Call Centre, there is no caller ID, and the call taker will never request any personal or identifying information. Additionally, if you submit a tip online through our platform, we're unable to trace the originating IP address. Tipsters remain completely anonymous. We are solely interested in the information provided, not your identity. Our motivation talking about the issue of extortion aligns with our efforts to address the revenue streams of organised crime. Extortion, contraband tobacco, and illegal cannabis fund illicit activities. We recognise that when organised crime comes to a community, violence can follow. Our 60-day campaign aims to raise awareness about extortion tactics and signs, build trust in law enforcement, reduce fear and stigma around seeking help, and encourage reporting through our anonymous tip system. Annually throughout BC, approximately 10,000 tips are received, reflecting the desire of the public to create a safer community by using our tip line and allowing us to be their voice. To leave an anonymous tip, you can call 1-800-222-8477 or submit a tip online at www.bccrimestoppers.com. To access the videos and material that we have created for this campaign, please refer to your press release, and the videos have been embedded. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Gillian. I'd now like to invite Chief Constable Norm Lipinski, the Surrey Police Service, to say a few words. Chief.
Thank you, Lindsay. I too would like to acknowledge our policing partners here today, as well as I'd like to acknowledge Director Parmar from the Surrey Police Board that is present as well. Good afternoon, everyone. Surrey Police Service is pleased to host today's announcement by the Public Safety Minister and Solicitor General, as well as BC Crime Stoppers. The matter of extortions is a top priority for Surrey Police Service, and we are tackling this issue with a three-pronged approach. First, we have stood up an extortion investigation team, which has dedicated SPS police resources working full-time on these files. This team is heavily engaged with the RCMP Surrey Provincial Operations Support Unit, as well as other agencies locally and nationally. Our extortions team is also working with victims to ensure there is a safety plan in place for them and their families. Second, we have increased our police presence and patrols in a number of key areas in Surrey, as well as other overt tactics, such as the development of cameras in the community. And third, SPS is engaging with the community to ensure they know what to do if they receive an extortion threat. It's important that victims immediately report the incident to police and take steps to preserve any evidence, such as text messages, voicemails, and camera footage. We also advise that people do not pay any money or attempt to negotiate with these criminals, as this can escalate the situation. The collective efforts of police to combat these extortions are extensive. However, it's important to note that these are extremely complex investigations, many of which go beyond the boundaries of the city where they occur. The investigative techniques being used are deliberate, they're measured, and very often very quiet. While we understand that people want regular updates on our investigations, we cannot risk compromising the leads we have accomplished through the public disclosure that may occur. And therefore, we tend to just bring updates on our communication plan as opposed to updates on the various investigations. What I can share is that we are actively gathering evidence and intelligence in connection with multiple extortion investigations in Surrey and other jurisdictions. To defeat extortionists, police and the community need to present a unified and a defiant position. I appreciate the support of our local policing partners, the Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General, and Crime Stoppers on this very, very important issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I would now like to invite Minister Begg back to the podium for Q&A, which will be moderated by the Province of British Columbia's Government Communications and Public Engagement Team. Minister.
Thank you. Enter the queue for a question and a follow-up. We are going to start with media in the room. The first question is going to be Aaron MacArthur, Global News, please.
This one. Yep, not yours, this mic. Hi, Minister. I've spoken to people in the South Asian community who have told me directly they do not trust necessarily reporting lines. This $100,000, could it not be spent on more direct policing? Because people are asking for more boots on the ground here.
Well, we certainly have provided the police in the community, provincially and municipally, with the amount of money they need to do the job that they're doing. I don't think there is a shortage of expertise on the part of the police. I think there is a shortage of information that is always important to help the police do their job. And in the community, if you're the subject of an extortion, if you're aware of someone being extorted, your job is to make that known. It is important that the police have the information to work so that they can do their job.
I do. A follow-up for the chief, perhaps. You talk about investigations ongoing and not being able to talk about them specifically. But we've recently seen a murder in Ontario where suspects were arrested here in British Columbia. I think the community would like to see some sort of results from the SBS and other agencies. How do you respond to criticisms like that?
Well, first of all, I appreciate that there's a certain level of anxiety in the community. And what I can tell you is that our investigative team is well resourced, and we do have a number of different specialties in that team, as well as experienced officers. But beyond that, people with language skills, people with technology skills that we sometimes have to employ. And so we are leaning forward on this. Every case is different, and it's difficult to compare case to case as well as jurisdiction to jurisdiction. But my message to the public is, number one, report, but number two, know that we are working extremely hard to really find these people and hold them accountable.
Our next question, just a reminder to all reporters on site and online, we have one question and one follow-up. So next question is from Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News.
The question is for the Minister, please. Minister, there's enough evidence to point that this seems like a pattern of South Asian businesses being targeted. Why do you think they are being specifically targeted?
I, of course, don't know why every South Asian business is being extorted. I understand that some of them are the target of extortion attempts. Why this particular community? I don't know the answer to that. It has been targeted by probably South Asian, the rest of the South Asian community throughout the world. Why specifically this group? I don't have the answer for that.
Saurabh, did you have a follow-up? So our next question is from Kevin Charak, CTV News.
Thank you. This is likely for the Chief Constable as well. Thank you. So we've been covering these issues for well over a year now linked to extortion. Have there been any arrests made linked to extortion in Surrey over the past year or so?
We have presently 12 files since the beginning of 2025. We feel that is underreported. Our investigators are working to solve these crimes. At the present time, we have not put any files forward to the Crown, but they are all ongoing and very active.
Kevin, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do. Thank you. And we have heard that these crimes may be committed outside of the jurisdiction of Surrey, perhaps even outside of the country. Can you talk to me about the efforts to work with other agencies in tackling this issue?
Yes, I won't get into details, but you are correct, sometimes beyond the borders of Canada. And so that entails us to work with, first of all, the Surrey RCMP, the SPOSU unit, and then second with E-Division RCMP, and then with the National Coordination Center out of Ottawa, and some other agencies as well, depending on where the investigation takes us. Suffice to say that we have that working relationship through all levels of policing, through all levels of government, and I think it's pointed in the right direction. And that kind of collaboration is really, really good to see. Everybody is joined to come to the bottom of some of these files.
Next is Parmeet Kamra, Omni News.
Thank you, Minister Begg. The question is for you. As you have announced this campaign is of 60 days. How will the effectiveness of this campaign be measured?
So what we need, what the police departments need, is information that in many cases the community has. And if I could speak directly to the community, if you are a victim of extortion, if you do receive a call, the most important thing that you can do is report it to the police of jurisdiction. The identity of the victims of crime is dependent upon the police not doing anything. In this case, the police are active every day. So if you report it, they can work on it, and that's important. The specialty of Crime Stoppers is that it's anonymous, right? So anyone can access the Crime Stoppers information with information, and that's what's going to make the difference here.
Parmit, did you have a follow-up?
Sorry. So is there a long-term plan beyond this campaign to address the root cause of these extortion threats?
I would say that there is an extensive long-term plan for policing throughout the country. This is a crime of opportunity. The police are aware of it, and as they become more aware of it, I think they will continue in their day-to-day efforts, continue to combat instances like this.
Next is Joe Sadowski, CD News.
Hi, this question's for Chief Lipinski. Chief, you said that in order to combat extortion in this province, you said it needs to be a united front with the province, with the police, and with victims of extortion. What part does the media play in, and why hasn't extortion victims been allowed to speak with us about certain cases?
Yeah, it's when we're talking about individual cases, when you're talking about victims, sometimes people don't want to speak because they just don't want to be known out there and that they are a victim. Sometimes they do want to speak, and sometimes we work with them, perhaps not to, depending on the threat assessment that we conduct for them and their family. And sometimes there's evidentiary reasons why we wouldn't want them to go out with anything at a particular period of time, depending where we are in that investigation. Multiple factors that go into that. I'm very concerned about the victims. I'm concerned about getting to making arrests in these cases, and I'm concerned about getting more information, and that's why we're here today. There's witnesses probably out there. Perhaps they don't realize they are witnesses, but anytime they see something, even something suspicious, if they hear something, we want them to come forward. You don't know when there's that little nugget of information that may lead to breaking open a case.
And my follow-up is for the Solicitor General. With this campaign, how does this address the fear of these victims in the community, and how will you address that with this campaign, and what if that doesn't work?
Well, it's important that we realize that there is fear in the community at large. A situation like this creates a level of awareness that helps people who are victims or who are aware of victims understand that this is a society problem. We're encouraging people to report and observe crime so that the police can continue to do their job. Every day across this country, men and women of law enforcement are working very hard to bring security to the country. This is one of the ways of doing that. It's creating a level of awareness in the community that if they report the crime, it is solved at a much greater rate.
Next is Gagandeep Singh, Red FM.
Minister Begg, despite regular announcements and funding, the community says the results aren't visible and trust in the government and police is fading. What's your response on this?
Well, I was a policeman for many years, and I know that trust is important. Trust in the police is important, but that is the ability of the police to do their job with the tools that they have. As I mentioned earlier, the government is stepping up with resources, funds to fund the policing activity. And I think as time goes on, it becomes more apparent that the police can only work with the cooperation of citizens. So Crime Stoppers has stepped up. It's a $100,000 investment in Crime Stoppers so that we can continue, the police can continue to do their job, which is identifying and dealing with the perpetrators.
Follow up.
Do you believe this Crime Stoppers awareness campaign will lead to evidence that could help solve these long pending cases? Can you share any past examples where similar efforts led to a breakthrough?
Yeah, I absolutely believe in Crime Stoppers because it works. I have experience in the past where tips that have been received from Crime Stoppers has resulted in the apprehension and conviction of persons responsible. It does work. I hope it provides some, to the community, some lack of fear in our responsiveness. The police can only be as responsive as the community, and the community, I think, by stepping forward to Crime Stoppers, will play a very important role.
Next is Francis Plord, Radio Canada.
Question to Minister Begg. So there's been calls to call the Bishnoi Group a terrorist organization in recent weeks. Have you got any response from the government, and how would that help?
So the Premier, of course, appealed to the Prime Minister to identify the Bishnoi gang as a terrorist organization. That's important. That means that any assets of that group in Canada can be frozen, and we cripple the ability of the Bishnoi group to continue their activities by doing that. It's important that they be identified. They travel, they recruit other members in the country, and our ability, that is the ability of the police to have that stopped, is very important. Alberta and Ontario, which have been victims of extortion, have joined us in appealing to the Prime Minister. I know that the Justice Minister has announced today that he, in the fullness of time, will present to the government some issues related to bail, which is another thing that is important in this province, and we look forward to them continuing to do that.
Follow up?
For Chief Lipinski. You know, it's been ongoing for several months now. What makes it challenging? Is it just that people are not coming forward with information, or other factors at play that the public should know?
Yes, good question. There's a lot of complexities to these cases. You know, first of all, there's the, I mentioned earlier that some of these cases originate offshore. So there's that element when you're looking to follow the trail. Secondly is identifying the people. Certainly on some of the videos that everybody has seen, some of the faces have been obscured, and so getting that identification going is sometimes a challenge. And then we want to have the people come forward with just information. Obviously, the weapons came from somewhere, and perhaps somewhere, somehow, if we get some information through Crime Stoppers to lead us in any one of those streams, that would be very helpful to look to concluding some of these cases.
Before going to the phones, I would like to apologize with media on the phone that you were not able to hear Gillian on Zoom. We had a small technical problem. If you need, we can share the clip or the recording with you. Please just contact our media relations team. That being said, we are going to Mike Hager, Globe and Mail.
Thanks for taking questions. Can you just explain how many cases involve links to the Bishnoi group? And the Bishnoi group in the past has been linked to the Modi government. Is there any indication that the Indian government has ties to the Bishnoi gang activities in these extortion cases?
Chief.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I won't get into details on that. That's something for other agencies to perhaps answer, and I think I'll leave it at that. Know that investigative steps are being followed, and we are pursuing all entities, and therein lies some of the complexities that we had mentioned earlier.
Mike, did you have a follow-up?
Always, thank you. Okay, so the complexities you speak of, are you getting any cooperation from Indian police with, say, the RCMP liaison officer there on these cases? And can you confirm that the vast majority of victims are Sikh Punjabi Canadians, and why are they specifically being targeted?
Well, that would be a question for the RCMP, the first part of what you asked there. And most of the cases are in the South Asian community, and most of the victims are South Asian.
Our next question is from Tom Zitaruk, Surrey Now leader.
I just want a point of clarification. Was that 12 arrests since the beginning of 2025, or 12 cases that you're aware of?
No, sir. That was 12 cases that we have. We feel that this offense is underreported, and I think there's quite a bit more out there. And part of today is about having everybody come forward that's a victim of this crime.
Tom, did you have a follow-up?
Yes. Have there not been any arrests yet?
No, as I said earlier, we are leaning forward with a well-resourced investigative team, and we are pursuing all avenues of investigation, and we have not put anything forward before the Crown at the present time.
Our next question is from Chuck Chang, Canadian Press.
Thank you very much. Minister, I understand the province has requested the federal government to list the Bishnoi Gang as a terrorist organization. What is the basis of that? What is the definition in terms of what would prompt the province to seek that terrorist designation as opposed to other types of criminal activity? Why would they qualify as a terrorist?
The Bishnoi gang has actually publicly linked themselves, and through our cooperation with international police agencies and local police, we're satisfied, that is, the government is satisfied, that their attempts to link themselves to the crimes committed here comprise enough for the federal government to accede to our request to identify them as a terrorist group, and by that, it gives us greater latitude to combat their crimes in this country.
Chuck, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you. So, Minister, on that point, so far, most of the most salient information we have in the public is a document from the Abbotsford Police linking one case, linking cases of extortion of wealthy South Asian community members to the Bishnoi gang. So you're saying that there are other links to the cases here that has been that you can confirm that is linked specifically to the Bishnoi gang in the Lower Mainland in BC.
Yes, there is, I'm advised, intelligence within the police community that corroborate our request through the Premier to the federal government to identify them as a terrorist organization.
Our last question for today is from Keith Norbury, BC Today.
Hello, thank you for taking my question. I'd just like to ask the Chief, he mentioned that the 12 cases since this year. Can you give a sense of how big those cases are? How much money might be involved? Is it tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars?
I won't get into the details of the money, but it's more than $10,000.
Did you have a follow-up?
For each one or for all of them?
It varies in amounts, and I'll leave it at that.
That's all the questions we have for today. If you have follow-up questions specifically for the BC Crime Stoppers program, you can contact Gillian. Her email address is gillian@bccrimestoppers.com. Thank you, everyone, for joining in.
Thank you very much.
From Minister Gary Begg, who is the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General, also Gillian Millam, the Executive Director of BC Crime Stoppers, on really what more is being done to address rising extortion threats in the South Asian community. I'm just going to take a moment here to go over some of that key information from this press conference once again. So, BC's Safety Minister says the recent surge in extortion threats is very concerning. And the key message today is really about public awareness and how reporting, he says, is the most important step in stopping extortion, how it can lead to investigations being solved faster. So starting tomorrow, we heard today that BC Crime Stoppers is launching a digital media campaign to raise awareness and encourage the reporting of extortion to make it possible that the federal government has provided BC Crime Stoppers $100,000 to run a 60-day extortion awareness campaign. So this will be available in both English, also Punjabi, and it'll include advertisements on radio, on podcasts, social media, and TV. Officials say this campaign was developed after consulting individuals who have deep knowledge of extortion experience in policing and lived experiences in the South Asian community too. Gillian Millam, who is the Executive Director of BC Crime Stoppers, she reassured how tipsters will remain anonymous and they don't focus just on one's identity, rather on what they are reporting. So again, lots of information there on the importance of reporting that information. We're going to go now live back to that press conference. My colleague Saurabh Sandhu has been covering extortion extensively, and he joins us now live from there. Saurabh, I just want to take a moment. What do you think has really led up to today's announcement?
Beneath today's announcement has come after a series of shootings in Surrey, which the police says they are investigating for any links to extortions. It's also important to note that these targeted incidents have been primarily targeted at the South Asian businesses. Just a couple of weeks ago, an Abbotsford man was shot to death at his workplace in Surrey. Police say the motive of that target attack it's not clear yet, but it has left many community members nervous and concerned about their safety. Nearly 2 weeks ago, a public forum was held by Surrey businessmen to discuss these public safety concerns. BC's Public Safety Minister, the Surrey Police Chief, and the Mayor of Surrey, they were present at this forum, and more than a dozen community members came forward at that public forum to express their concerns about public safety in this community. So today's announcement is in a way an urgent call for action. So that seems to be the takeaway from this event.
Saurabh, we also heard today the police chief talk about how there have been 12 cases that have been related to extortion in the city. I'm curious, what more do we know about what kind of progress has there been in these latest shooting investigations? You know, you've been covering them in the past recently.
Police say it's too early to say, but one thing that the Surrey police has confirmed is that within the last 6 months, there have been 10 reports of extortion, which has prompted the Surrey police to create their own dedicated extortion investigations team. Surrey Police Chief Norm Lipinski has termed these investigations as complex and has said that these investigations stretch throughout Canada and some even beyond the borders of the country. Minister Gary Begg has called these incidents as transnational crime. Last week, the Premier of the province, David Eby, said he will be writing to the Prime Minister of Canada urging him to designate Lawrence Bishnoi gang as a terrorist entity in Canada. Canadian police sources have told CBC News that Lawrence Bishnoi gang is one of the number of gangs in India that have spread into North America in last few years.
And Saurabh, I also want to talk more about, how you've been covering this. You've been talking to community members in Surrey and Abbotsford, reflecting on all of that. How are they feeling?
The hope is that that there is an end to these extortion threats in the community. Today's event is more geared towards raising awareness and reporting of extortion activity in the community. Whether that's a victim or someone with the information, they are being encouraged to contact the police. Besides English, there's also a dedicated line in Punjabi, so anybody in Punjabi language can also provide that information. And Chief Norm Lipinski in today's event, he said that he hopes that people who are executing these shootings on the ground, the hope is that there could be some information that could come through that could help identify them or the weapons that are being used. So the hope is that there can be an end to these shootings. So it's fine, an awareness raising campaign, and also to gather public support so that this problem could be put to an end in the province.
In the past, I've heard from, for example, Kashid, who spoke about discomfort and the fear of speaking out. Have you personally heard about that from folks that you have spoken to who have been victims of extortion threats?
Yes, I have spoken to a number of people in the community who have been dealing with extortion threats for more than a couple of years now, and time and again they have been expressing their concerns, and they are really urging the officials to take this more seriously and take an urgent action on this.
All right, Saurabh, thank you so much. That again is Saurabh Sandhu joining us today from our press conference regarding extortion and what law enforcement hopes to do to address that in the South Asian community. And the focus today again about reporting and encouraging people to report on any threats that they may be facing with the collaboration with BC Crime Stoppers.